for the dreaded clock.
It's probably like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Are they going to rehang the clock somewhere?
I hope.
I hope.
No,
so
the first
too.
thing I did is I looked at that.
I know,
and
I did too.
I'm
I'm
like,
like, we had no
okay, I
clock,
guess
so I have to keep
I'll
looking
hear
at
in
my
my
phone.
phone.
Yeah.
What else went up there?
I know. That's where it ended up. Yeah.
Yeah, I
think the
thought it was
clock's
too.
over
I thought
there.
that was going over there.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
Okay, we'll call the meeting in order. Please note the roll. Is there any public comments?
I would like to first start off just introducing, you want to do
Why
that?
don't we
Wait,
go through,
okay, go ahead.
go through the
Never mind.
consent and we'll wait for the girls to come up.
Okay.
And did anybody get any emails prior to 3:30 today?
No, ma'am. Move on to the consent agenda items. First on there is going to be the minutes for the regular meeting of the Board of Directors held on May 5th, 2021. Also, the regular meeting of the Michigan South Central Power Agency Board of Commissioners held on April 1st, 2021. Also, the special meeting of the Michigan South Central Power Agency Board of Commissioners held on April 21st of 2021. Also included in the report's going to be the departmental, which is going to be the Board of Public Utilities operation reports and financial statements for April 2021, the bills and accounts for period ending May 31st of 2021, the power supply cost projections, the MERS defined benefit pension plan statement for the quarter ending March 31st of 2021. Is there anything we need to discuss or pull out for further analysis or anything? No? Need a motion?
Approve? Support?
Got a motion support?
All in favor, right? That's what
That's
we
all
got.
we're gonna do now?
We don't have no more roll calls.
Okay.
No more roll calls.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Gotta get back in there. So before we get
Start with-
into
yeah.
the actual agenda, so we, obviously with COVID, we have a lot of change that since happened. So we got some new employees we want to introduce. So Corey Post is also, you can stand up. Tell us a little bit about yourself real quick.
From Coldwater, I got my brother, Bill went to Coldwater. Played baseball there, and I transferred to Wayne State. Played baseball, and I got a bachelor's of science in biology. Worked at the YMCA in Battle Creek for the past 7 years. Out in the water department, so I moved here with my wife and big girl, and I got another one due in July.
Oh. Yeah, very good.
I'm glad to have you.
Thanks, Corey. So the next one, while they're walking in, so before you sit down, just when you're standing up, who wants to go first? So Jill Ware. Jill, will you introduce yourself to the board?
Hi, I'm Jill Ware.
Yeah. How about a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm originally from Ohio, but raised in Coldwater.
Yep. And Jill started with us in March-ish?
Yes.
Yeah, very good. Standing next to her is Sue Ann Aldinger. Sue Ann, tell us a little.
I'm Sue. I'm born and raised here. I've been here now. This is my first time opening though. Customer service.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So, ladies, have a seat for a second, if you would. And Sheila Puffenberger has never been in front of you formally.
Yes, I've seen all of you on Zoom.
Yeah. Go ahead, Sheila. Tell us about yourself.
Sheila Pufferberger. I started last April, so we missed all this, so I've never been in a live meeting before. I live in Indiana with my son. I've lived in Coldwater and enjoyed the community. It's great to be here.
We're glad to have you.
Yeah, definitely glad to have all of you guys.
Yeah, so, and they all want to come up and say, oh, no, those are all the.
One more.
You guys hold off. I'm trying to say something if you would listen.
Well, usually you
So
jump too
these
fast.
folks were all hired during COVID, so we were never able to bring them up. So again, everyone has been a wonderful addition, so we're really glad they met our team. So now the most recent hire is, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Abby. I'm the marketing coordinator. I started last week and I went to Florida Southern College, got my bachelor's of science in business administration with a concentration in marketing, minors in political science and communications. I've spent a lot of time in Coldwater. My dad works at Aunt Millie's and my sister's a third grade teacher at San Sophia Academy. I'm just really excited to be here and be working with you.
Yeah, you can kind of see that energy is what
Oh,
really.
yeah, I'll take a big comment. I was afraid I'd offend you
No,
if I said
no, no,
something.
not at all. That's what we love about her is the spirit and bringing that in. So again, thanks everybody. You guys don't need to stick around if you don't want to. So, but I really appreciate you guys coming up and putting a face with the name. Really makes it easier for these guys to really get to know who you guys are. So feel free to stick around if you want. Corey, no, you ain't farming tonight, so you're out of luck. So I won't make you stay anyway. So thanks everybody. Appreciate it. So back to you.
Okay. Well, we'll move on to the regular agenda. First on the agenda is going to be the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund.
Yeah, so with modern technology, we are actually going to have Jeff Brown as well as Caitlin Weinica from Fishbeck join us virtually. They're going to walk through this, and let's see. I think I have the presentation here. So Jeff, who wants to go first? Jeff?
I'll go first. So what we're talking about tonight has to do with the lead and copper rule that Eagle has enforced on the city recently. And what that is basically the board has to go through and replace all lead service lines. And that originally started as an unfunded mandate. But we submitted on a grant program on your behalf that called the DCSLR. And that provides up to $3 million worth of funding for that replacement of all the lead service lines within the city. So the application process for that is called a project plan, which is about a 4-month process that we've been working on. And a key component of that process is the public information. Even though, in all honesty, typically we don't get a lot of public involvement, Eagle still requires us to do that. So there's a presentation we have to do that with, well, originally when this all got scheduled, everybody was at home. So we had to do it twice. We've got to do it once here and then a second time in an official public hearing at the council meeting just to give the public a chance to participate and whatnot. And the Eagle has pretty specific guidelines for that. So Caitlin, who actually wrote the project plan, is going to walk through that presentation and walk us through that. And then that'll give everybody a chance for the public to comment. And of course, obviously you guys as well. One key note is there's two things we did with the project plan. The first is the lead service line DCLSR, which is the $3 million. That was done through what's called Booker funds. And that part, it looks like, is going to be approved. And so we're proceeding with that. There were a couple of other projects that we put in with the DWSRF, a couple at the water plant and a couple water main replacements. That one, as long as we were going to go through the process of doing a project plan, we had a chance to get some low interest money and potentially some principal forgiveness. However, there was a record number of applications this year in the DWSRF, including a couple really big ones over in the Detroit area. So we won't be eligible for the other portion of it, at least not this year. So one of the things we talked about was, since the project plan was basically done when we found this out and everything's all set up, we're going to go ahead and proceed with the presentation as if those projects were still going to be done. Primarily, and this is probably a bit of a long shot, but you know, as long as it doesn't really cost anything, there's no reason not to try. But if any of these, you know, all these rumblings out of Lansing and Washington about possible infrastructure funding, if some of that were actually to materialize, who knows if it actually will, but if it does, I think it is in the board's best interest to have fundable projects sitting there in Eagle's lap ready to roll. And if that doesn't materialize, it's no real harm done because we already had the project plan completed. So unless there's some initial questions, I'll turn it over to Caitlin, and she's going to walk through the presentation, and then we, of course, can answer more questions afterwards.
If I could interrupt real quick, Jeff, could you share your slides? I'm sure that to put some time into that and want to be able to see the presentation.
All right, okay, let me do it that way. How's that, Pat?
Perfect.
Caitlin, just give me a ding or something when you want me to change slides, so.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Caitlin. I'm with Fishbeck. I'm going to go through the project plan the presentation that we're going to make at the public hearing at the city council meeting in a couple Wednesdays from now, June 14th. And this presentation is sort of guided by the DWSRF loan program requirements. So there's certain things that we have to kind of discuss, bring up in the project plan itself, but also the presentation too. So I'm going to go through that, and yeah, just let me know if you have any comments. Next, Jeff. So Jeff from Fishbeck, lots of Jeffs, kind of went through some of this background information about the DWSRF program. It's basically designed to assist municipalities in satisfying the requirements of the Safe Drinking Water Act by offering low interest loans for qualifying water projects. So whether that be a distribution project or a project at the treatment plant, et cetera. Kind of a different thing this year that's come through is that there is the Disadvantaged Community Lead Service Line Replacement Program, which the board is eligible for $3 million of the Booker funds. And I'll kind of talk about that a little bit more. So it's sort of two pots of money, as Jeff was saying. So one is the DWSRF loan, and then the other is that lead service line replacement Booker funds. But both are administered by Eagle. And in order to essentially apply for the funding, we have to submit a project plan, intent to apply, and kind of go through this like public participation process as well. And next, Jeff. Just some sort of kind of outline information about what the project plan includes. We advertised it on the city's website back in May. It has to be on and available for public comment for 30 days. But it includes a lot of information, background information about the system, the water system, the need for the particular projects, and then different alternatives that we looked at for assessing those needs. And within those alternatives, we have to, look at the different impacts of each project, and then how we're going to mitigate any anticipated environmental impacts, long-term things. So there's sort of kind of detailed process that we go through to evaluate each alternative and eventually select the best one to meet the need. And then the public participation, we'll have a public hearing to adopt the project plan, so long as there's no major comment from the public or from the board, and submit the final project plan. And then that link there is just a direct link to where it's posted on the website currently. There are sort of 6 different projects that we included in the project plan. There are 2 projects that will be out of applying for the DWSRF low interest loan at the water treatment plant, and then 3 water main replacement projects, and then of course the lead service line replacement, which comes from the Booker Fund pot of money. The 2 at the plant are going to address the disinfection system and the filter valves, and then we're looking at replacing some old cast iron water main on some of the residential streets in Michigan Ave. So the first project at the water treatment plant is aimed to improve the safety of the overall disinfection system by abandoning the existing chlorine gas disinfection system that's in place. And there's been a move kind of to do this since early 2000s, when kind of that hazard became a little bit more, I guess, a concern for municipalities. So a lot of them have moved away from it. And essentially we have 3 different, for all the projects that we're going to look at, there's 3 to 4 different options. And some of these options are required by the project plan itself to consider and kind of go through the evaluation. What if we did not implement any improvements at this project? What would be the consequence of that? So that first option, no action, this just really allows the risk to remain. We're not considering it. We've been moving away from chlorine gas. We've wanted to do this project for a while, so that's kind of not an option. The two options to optimize and retrofit the existing facilities that we do have would be to use the existing chlorine gas room, retrofit and implement new equipment to do a bulk sodium hypochlorite system or an on-site generation of hypochlorite. So those were the two main alternatives that we were considering. And then third regional alternative is, again, one that we have to discuss within the project plan guidelines. So any other regional facility that could, address the particular need, which there isn't, since, we have the plant and we have to provide the disinfection. So that's kind of a, unacceptable alternative to consider. Okay, next, Jeff.
I'll let you take a breath for just a second. So one of the things too, we talked about in our workshop was the fact that this is an employee safety matter. Again, chlorine gas is dangerous and there's a lot of requirements that go with that. So this is why this is also something that's kind of pressing for us. Whether we get this funded or not, this will still be an item that we will want to do in the future, if not more immediately. So back to you, Caitlin.
So ultimately, we selected the bulk sodium hypochlorite. And essentially, the on-site generation, it's a different mechanism to get to the same kind of overall endpoint and same disinfection, mechanism, I guess. But the differences between the two on-site generation or doing bulk is just cost, maintenance, and labor required, which ultimately ended up, being the better option for us is doing the bulk sodium hypochlorite. And that would involve some new equipment, modifying the existing chlorine room, doing some work around the existing building footprint. Yep, and I think that's about it. Yeah, like I said, less maintenance and operator labor required from on-site generation. So that just made the most sense. Project 2 is at the plant's gravity filter system. So there's several valves that are integral to operating the filters that are at the end of their useful life. Basically, they're kind of reached their, they've exceeded their design life, and maintenance issues. They're not operating as they should at this point. So there's really two options, which would be wholesale replacement of the valves, rehabilitation of the valves, and there's also some instrumentation and control that go along with both of those options, and adding actuators. But at the end of the day, it kind of comes down to what's most cost effective, what's the best to implement, and what's going to be, the best product. The no action, again, wasn't really considered further, just because the longer we wait, the more the equipment's going to deteriorate and eventually, fail, which we're trying to prevent. And there is, again, no regional alternatives acceptable. So we didn't really consider anything further there. Next, Jeff.
I'm going to interrupt you. We've got a power outage, so we're sorry, we're going to kind of scramble here for a little bit. So it's in the industrial park, so we're going to,
Perfectly fine.
so a few people are moving, so. Go ahead, Caitlin.
Okay. So we ended up, based on the pipe gallery and how it's configured, some of the valves are difficult to access for as far as like replacement would go, and also just with the significantly lower cost that's associated with rehabbing versus wholesale replacement for essentially getting what's effectively a new valve out of it. Rehabilitation made the most sense, just with our knowledge from the manufacturer as well. So that's the selected alternative for project 2. And that wraps up what the projects that we applied for under the DWSRF loan at the plant, which I believe in the next slide we show just overall costs. So again, we have to kind of break things down into their subcategories as far as initial capital costs go, and some estimations on engineering, admin, that sort of thing. But overall, we're looking at about $1 million, which is what we applied for under the DWSRF. And here we'll see, I point out that all costs are loan eligible, which will probably make more sense when I talk about some of the distribution projects. So I'll just comment on that a little bit later. So here's the big one. So this lead service line replacement project, again, is coming out of that Booker Fund pot of money, which we have, we qualify for the 100% principal forgiveness. So this comes out of the compliance issue. And now that lead no longer complies with the Safe Drinking Water Act, no matter what, we have to eliminate the lead service lines within 20 years. So we definitely want to get the money while we can do it, or else we're going to have to do it on our own dime down the line. So again, option one is not in compliance with Safe Drinking Water Act, so we have to get these eliminated. There's no really way to optimize the existing facility, so really the only alternative is going to be the construction alternative to replace the lead service lines with an acceptable material. So that's what we're going for. And that map kind of shows a scattered locations of all the lead service lines throughout the city. They're pretty highly concentrated kind of in the downtown area, which makes sense. But we have tried to kind of take a look at this and see what, where the higher density areas are that coincide with some of the water main projects that we know we want to do. So we're kind of looking at the system holistically as we develop projects and we decide to, go for lead service line replacements. So next, Jeff, I'm trying to remember what's on the slide.
A bunch of red dots on that map, so unfortunately.
Yes. Yeah, so we have a total of about 1,290 lead service lines. And that's a combination of, kind of looking at it from the customer service line, the customer portion, and the public portion, or the entire. So that kind of includes everything. That's like the total number of replacements that will be necessary. So we went for the entire $3 million that we qualified for. Again, we're going to coordinate these with projects like future road and water main projects that we are planning on in the future, to make sure, we're not going and potholing roads that we know that we're going to already come back and do the water main, that sort of thing. So I think the plan is to do a combination perhaps of the board self-performing the replacements, or contracting them out in little contracts. And they're all going to be, full replacements or eliminating an existing partial lead service. So we can't replace one side and leave lead in the ground. We have to eliminate all lead. So no partial lead service lines are allowed. We can only eliminate them. So yes, so it's a big undertaking, but we have the $3 million that we qualify for, so it's good news. One thing to note for the lead service line replacement is that the $3 million allotment is for the construction costs only. So any, which there's not going to really be any significant, or there shouldn't be, and that should not say construction. I need to fix that. Admin, engineering costs associated with it. So the $3 million can only go to construction costs. So anything outside of that would qualify under the low interest loan, or otherwise needs to be funded by the city separately. So it just goes to construction costs. And the last kind of one that we grouped all together is the water main replacement projects that we decided on. And this, two of them, the one on Washington and Perkins, we're doing to address some old, aged cast iron undersized water main. And that's also an area that has a pretty high density of lead service lines. So with that project, we'll be taking care of all the lead service lines there too. The existing main has exceeded its design life. So essentially it's just kind of moving down the list of projects that need to be done and kind of coinciding with other utilities. So with this project, with the Washington and Perkins, we are also going to do the sewer because the sewer has need as well. So we tried to kind of, and those are the funds that are not eligible. So only water related items are eligible with the DWSRF low interest loan. So all the sewer will come out of a separate fund and cannot be wrapped into that. So the first project is replacing upsizing about 700 feet of cast iron water main on Washington from Elm to Sprague. We'll get 10 lead service lines out with that, and we're going to reconstruct the sanitary sewer, which again, costs are ineligible for the DWSRF loan, but while we're doing construction, we definitely need to address the needs of the sanitary sewer as well. So that's the goal with that one. And then I think I show Perkins on the next slide.
Yeah, I got you there. Perkins.
Oh, there you are. Sorry, they look so similar that I couldn't even tell. And this one is 680 feet, kind of same thing. We're going to remove the copper service lines and reconstruct the sanitary sewer. And then the next one on Michigan Ave is to address concerns for capacity based on future growth. So we're going to upsize that to a 12-inch from the 6-inch that it currently is. And so those are the three. We're not doing the sewer is okay there as far as capacity and condition goes. So we're going to leave the sewer. But since this is kind of an urgent one that we need to do based on growth concerns, that got added to the list this year too. So those are the three distribution projects. And this cost kind of shows everything, even with all the sanitary sewer costs associated, and then breaks down what portion of that is eligible under the DWSRF loan. So about 400K for Washington and Perkins, and 700 for Michigan is what we applied for under DWSRF.
Yeah, so basically out of the $2.6 million you see here, none of it got funded. So again, we're hoping, as Jeff said, that this can come back under a future loan or be a shovel-ready project. So that's kind of our goal. So anyway,
we'll have them ready to go if we do get the funds. And kind of the last requirements of the project plan require us to assess the environmental impacts near the project areas. So a lot of this stuff, previous construction areas, at the work at the wastewater treatment plant is going to occur a lot of the time within the building or near the existing building footprint. We don't anticipate any impact to threatened or endangered species or to the natural environment. And really just the only kind of temporary impact would be on air quality, but we'll limit construction hours to regular working hours during the week, and properly maintain our equipment and utilize dust control to help with that. I think the next slide, we just had to take a look at any of the historical or archaeological resources in the vicinity of the project and just make sure that there's nothing that we could potentially impact. Obviously the big social public health impact will come from the lead service line replacements in being in compliance with the Safe Drinking Water Act. So that's a positive. So we're really not anticipating anything as far as social impacts go. The lead service line replacement, as far as the effect of these projects, that's going to be fully funded through the Booker funds, so that really shouldn't have an impact. However, if we did get the DWSRF loan, which it's looking like we won't, the pot of money will just quite not reach us at this point, but it was about $2 a month or 7% increase in the monthly cost to the average residential user. So that's required as a part of the project plan too, is to develop or do an analysis on the user costs and what the implications will be to the users. And lastly, again, the project plan is available on the city website for public comment. In the project plan and in an advertisement, my contact information is in there. Comments submitted to me, I haven't gotten any yet, so a couple of weeks left, maybe I will. And we're going to have the public hearing on June 14th of 2021 at the council meeting to adopt the project plan, the final project plan. And other than that, that's my contact information there. And any questions?
Good job. Thank you, Caitlin.
Yeah, no problem.
Jeff, anything final from you?
Nope, I think that covers it pretty well. I know it was long, so I'll just answer questions if everybody's still awake.
There is still a resolution that we're just going to have the city council pass. So tonight's action would be just to kind of take this and forward it to city council for final adoption. So we don't have the resolution available for you tonight, but it'll be for the city council. It's pretty boilerplate. Travis gets to listen to this whole thing again, so it'll be a good thing. Yeah.
Sorry, man.
So Brian, can I have you come up for a second? So one of the things that anytime we talk about lead service lines, I'm gonna put Brian on the spot here. Always says, well, there's one at my house, there's one at my house. Is my water safe? I want Brian to say, go ahead, Brian.
We have been testing for lead, copper violations for over 30 years and never had an exceedance. Lead service lines get a really bad rap. No offense, Don, in the press. It wasn't just the lead that was the problem in cities around America. There's other extenuating circumstances that go with it. So we do a really great job. We have a corrosion control program, keep track of all the stuff that we're doing, make sure the water is safe for everyone in half. So.
And our water is tested every year.
Yep.
And our water report, our confidence report is on the website.
Yep, and the new one will be out very shortly, just finishing the last little bit of touches on that. So they have a new template, so it took us a little while to get it all done, so.
And if we didn't have these Booker funds, technically we have 20 years to replace all these funds. The Booker funds will allow us to do this at free cost. We are going to try to self-perform. We're probably going to have a crew, and that's their job every day because they're putting in water services. So might not be a lot of variety for what they're doing. So again, a lot of stuff that Brian and I are still talking and finalizing. So we will be needing to add, probably some employees, especially down at the water department. But Brian and his crew just does an outstanding job on water. But that's the main thing I wanted to come up with today, is make sure that just because you have a red dot on a map in front of your house does not mean your water is not safe. And we'd be glad to come out and test them. And we do that all the time.
We'll gladly add you to the list of the lead copper testing that we do every year. You're going to get more lead off the paint in your house than you are out of the lead services in the ground. Just a fact. So.
Thank you, Brian.
Yep.
Anything else, Jeff or Caitlin? If not, we'll virtually say goodbye.
Nope, I think we're good. Appreciate the time and effort. And Brian did a lot of forethought as far as applying for these grant funds. So just kind of a second attaboy on that part. Is it's not often that your unfunded mandate becomes a funded mandate.
Yeah. Pretty fortunate this time anyway. So, all right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and get right back to the agenda. So thanks again, guys.
Just one quick.
Thanks. Good night.
Is there a schedule of when these will be performed?
performed in each part of town, or how, I mean, how's that gonna work?
I can answer, but I'll let Brian go ahead.
Well, we're working with the city to make sure that we're not just potholing streets and tearing up streets all over town. So we're gonna prioritize by projects and road ratings to see where we can get our most bang for the buck. Cause I don't wanna, we can't just go bouncing around all over town doing a service here, doing a service there, cause you know, technically there's, your water's safe in the, with the lead service line. If not, they would have been all over us by now, so.
And one thing, even on their presentation, you see both, there's 10 services. Now, part of this is a function of homes, but there's 10 services that are in Washington, and there's 5 on Perkins, or I might have it backwards. But anyway, there's 5 and 10. So you really want to get the ones that have 10 and do that road first versus doing with 5 if the road wasn't as good. So
yeah, and we've been really proactive. Every road construction project we've done for the last 10 years, we've changed out all the lead service lines. So it's not like we haven't been moving in this direction. We've been ahead of most cities that are doing this right now.
Okay, so it's not like the fiber project where there's a node here and a node here, and you just do each node as it comes up and what the priorities are.
Correct. Okay. Yeah. Now the Booker funds, because we technically are going to have to borrow these funds, so it's a lot of red tape and a lot of steps to go through. We may have to actually take a loan, which means then there's some requirements about how fast you have to spend that money. So it might be that we got to spend $3 million in the next 3 to 5 years. So it means that we're going to have people everywhere. But that's, free money is hard to pass up on. So, and there's a lot of restrictions that could, that I can go into, but we won't bore you tonight anyway. So, any other questions for Jeff, Caitlin, or Brett? All right. Thanks again, guys.
Thanks. Good night.
So I think the only thing was just, is the motion going to be for the project plan?
For the project plan, and just to forward it to city council for the public hearing and final resolution.
Okay, we need a motion.
I'll support.
Got a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, guys.
Yep. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Dylan McFarland, OJT experience presentation.
Yes, Dylan, I'll have you, Sheila, you going to introduce him? Oh, please do. Okay, go ahead. Separate up to the podium, be easier for them to hear you, so.
So I wanted to introduce Dylan McFarland. He is our Branch County Career Center student that has been working on the on-the-job training program this school year. And he is going to do a presentation on what his experiences has been like working for the CBPU. So Dylan, you can please tell them about yourself and start the presentation.
So I'm a senior at Quincy High School. And as Sheila had stated, I am an OJT student from the BACC, and I've been working here since September. So do we have a presentation? There should have been a
Pat?
I'm working on it.
Oh, you can raise that mic up a little bit if you want, Dylan. There you go.
There you go.
A little more comfortable for
You guys can all hear me, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Sweet.
That's just for the media. So
Got it.
The IT department having technical difficulties, so it's
It always does this. It always does it on the wrong screen. And you guys see that all right?
They can now, I believe.
Okay,
We're good. Let it roll.
Starting out, we can go ahead and do the next slide.
Pat, are you moving or am I moving?
There we go.
Oh, Pat is. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so starting off, I just wanted to give a big thank you to everybody for trying to help curb the virus. I know this has been a tough time for all of us, and being here, in person, working, has definitely been an experience for me. I've had to work around a lot of different things. But as you can see up there, many BACC programs did not actually get to do their OJT program, including one of my friends who was in the public safety program there. And I just am very appreciative to have this chance and opportunity to work for you guys. So there's that. And then I was only quarantined once, actually. So I'd actually was wanting to be here during those 2 weeks, but I did what I had to do, and here I am. So other than that, like I said, thanks. So next slide. So first things first, in the beginning of November, I started working on well, actually I was put in the position of setting up the poll books for the election. The poll books were the devices used for, well, I should say laptops used for the people who were managing the elections that collected personal data. So they'd get your driver's license information, and I just had to make sure that all the software was on there that was needed and make sure they were all up to date. And during this time setting them up, I had to work through my time management skills. So that has helped me improve largely on that. I had to plan out how to attack the poll books and how I wanted to get the software, when I was going to do the software, when I was going to update them, and basically just had to, plan out my, how I was going to do that. That also came with a lot of stress because I had to make sure that everything was installed properly and working within 2 weeks. Now that may seem like a lot of time, but every day I was going through and making sure something else wasn't going to break, because in the IT field, you never know when something's going to break, and you always want to have a backup and stuff. So there was that. And then lastly on this slide, I'd like to address the fine details of what I had to do, because I had, like I said, I had to constantly, almost every day before the election, I was going through, opening up the programs, making sure things were working, making sure stuff was not going to break, making sure stuff wasn't slow. And it definitely has improved my IT skills a lot. We can go ahead and move on to the next slide. So next up, I have monitoring the SCADA system. I actually had an opportunity. This is kind of a 1 in a million chance, because the help desk was actually off on Thanksgiving weekend. I had the opportunity to monitor the SCADA system. The SCADA system is the pump system, of course, that runs throughout the city of Coldwater. And the help desk usually monitors that, and there will be an alert that pops up, and they just call one of the wastewater people or the water people to help address that issue. Well, at the time, the help desk was off during the week of Thanksgiving. So the whole team, the IT team, was dedicated this job in monitoring the SCADA system. So we were all having a meeting about it and talking about what we were going to do and who was going to do what. And at that part in time, I actually felt like I was part of the team. So I volunteered my time on the Thanksgiving weekend to help out with, everybody's time, because everybody deserves their free time. And, if I can help make somebody's life a little bit easier, that's what I'm going to do. So there's that. Nothing happened on my shift, which I'm kind of glad for, but other than that, very interesting experience. Like I said, that's 1 in a million thing. You don't see that. All right, go ahead and switch to the next slide, please. So repairing PCs around the city. I learned and it helped my social skills a lot, because working for the city, I work at many different buildings, and you work with so many different personalities and so many different people. It's so unique. Every time you go to fix a computer or whatever, you're always talking to people. I can walk through basically any building and everybody says, "Hey, how you doing?" Everybody, we have good conversations. It's really unique, and it's so awesome to be here. Another thing I'd like to talk about is that things are easy sometimes. Sometimes I can pick up the phone, go to their desk, and fix something in a click. But I'm glad I get to be the one to educate the user on that problem. It just is a big part of me being an IT person. I love helping people. All righty, go ahead and switch to the next slide, please. So Bluebeam installations. So things aren't always easy in the IT field, and this was one of the cases where it was not easy. Now, Bluebeam is a PDF editing software, which is basically like a fancy text editor. You can edit, Word, make them different colors, this and that, but that's one of our main softwares for editing PDFs here. Now, there was an update for it, and I had to go to every PC on location and install Bluebeam, and that that took some time, but it kind of taught me that there's not always an easy way to do stuff, because at that moment in time, we didn't have a tool to push software out and, mass deployments. And, like I said, sometimes you just got to work around that stuff. And that's, another thing it's taught me, you got to work around things. Nothing's always going to be easy. But like I said, I went to every building that was here, and I was doing groups of PC. It took 45 minutes each. I had to uninstall and reinstall each piece of software, and I was doing 6, 7 computers at once. But other than that, like I said, it helped me build my career as an IT professional. All righty, go ahead and switch, please. So enough with bullet points here. We have the Arrowhive to Ruckus access point replacement. Now, this is for the Wi-Fi. I was given this project by Pat. It's a special project. I am currently configuring the Wi-Fi for every building. And basically, this is also a great thing because I get to show my networking skills and what I've learned at the BACC during this, project. And I have been able to define how I want the network, how I want these access points, how I want these, what security features do I want? What do I want users to be able to access to? What route is it? Do I want to add a bunch of new hardware in between, the access points? But this has also helped with my project management skills as well. And I originally was not going to be able to complete this, but due to my extended deployment, which I am very thankful for, I'm going to get to see this come to, fruition. And, it's going to be really cool in the end. It's just, this whole experience has been just amazing. All right, go ahead and switch the slide, please. So this is just a list of things that I've done here, and this isn't even half of it. I've done so much stuff. There's a list as long as my arm of stuff that I've done. And like I said, every experience is unique, and I work with so many different pieces of software. Even government software. Who gets to work with actually true state software? I can take that with me and, wherever I go, but it's just so cool to touch so many different things. Go ahead and switch the slide, please. And then this is a list of what I've learned here. And like I said, this is not even half the stuff that I've done. I could name plenty and plenty of things I've learned. And like I said, it's just such an amazing experience. And watching myself blossom is really, really cool as an IT professional. Go ahead and switch the slide, please. And I just like to dedicate this to the wonderful people at the city of Coldwater. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dylan. Great presentation. Dylan mentioned, I don't know if you caught it, we did extend him. We were so impressed that we were allowing Dylan to come in. He'll be working with us the rest of the summer as a part-time student. So, and again, Dylan's got a very bright future ahead of him. Sheila or Pat, any final things you guys want to add?
Yeah, I would say that this is the third OJT student we've run through the program. We've seen really good success for each one of those folks. But the real fun part of it is most of them come in socially not really too eager to talk to people and interact, and just to watch them go through that process and get more comfortable working with people. It's really rewarding for us, and they do bring us a lot of value for the time that they're here. It's a 20-hour-a-week program, and they really do help us out considerably.
No questions for Dylan. Again, I didn't know what he looked like. You got tie on today and everything else. So anyway, cleaned up. So again, great job, Dylan, and thanks for all you've done. So appreciate it. So
thank you. You guys have a wonderful day.
I do have a question. What are your plans for next year?
So my plans for next year are actually, well, I originally was thinking about college, but due to my career field and the research that I've done on it, I'm a simple person. I just want to do my job and go home, but also at the same time, I like helping users. So I'm thinking about just finding a job somewhere in, you know, a help desk position and doing my thing. So
Thank you.
He's not eligible for you to hire him if that's what you're asking for. So at least not until we're done with him in the fall. So anyway, and Sheila and Pat really deserve a lot of the credit. You know, Pat started this a couple of years ago, and it's really been a really good thing. So again, and Dylan's just an example of the fine people that we've had so far. We expect that to continue. So thanks again, Dylan.
yep, thank you guys.
You have a good day. Jump back here. Okay.
Next on the agenda is the Public Act 95.
Yes, so this is something we see every year. This is our opt-out. Basically, we are saying that we are not going to charge all of our customers, I think in this says 91 cents per meter. In fact, that will preclude us from, we don't shut people off from November 1st through April 15th. So again, this is kind of the status quo. If there's any questions, again, I know it's going to be late nights. We're going to just cut to the chase if there's any questions.
Anyone have any questions? Need a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second. A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next on the agenda is the presentation of the 2021-2022 fiscal year budgets.
Again, just as this is starting to take a little longer, these are the budgets that we looked at. There's been no changes to the budgets from our budget workshop. We can quickly go through these. Now this is what's actually in the budget, so we don't have as many line items. There's a lot of detail behind this, as we talked about, but you can kind of see that the budget that we're actually looking at is in the far right-hand column. So for this year, we have budgeted this is the electric fund, sorry. We have $42 million of budgeted revenue. We have $41.7 million in operating expenses. We do have some interest expense. We do know that we are budgeting what we feel will be a reduction of our fund balance, or if you would, our profit. So again, we understand that we're going to be eating away some of that profit, but this is also explains why we need to add back for electric rate increases. So again, the electric rate increases will be coming in the next meeting, working with Utility Financial Solutions. But I also want to make sure that everybody understands that we're still financially very, very strong, very viable. When you look back to what is really kind of a good key health indicator, is this coverage ratio. 3 to 1 is really a good indicator for what our coverage ratio is. But again, it is a little alarming because you can't keep running in deficits. So we got to make sure that we're raising those rates. And that's one of the worst thing ever. As we talked about, we're significantly below consumers now. Consumers came out with more of a time of use rate. You might have seen it in the paper. Now they are adding an adder for people using it during prime season. Something that we talked about. That's the way of the future, and it's just not them. It'll probably be everybody in a few years as electrification and all those different things starts happening with electric vehicles and such. So that's the electric fund. Flipping back through our telecommunications fund, as Tom's here. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask any of us. Again, $2.6 million is our budgeted telecommunications revenue. Again, it's a little unknown because we're still in the process of this fiber revenue. See, we really didn't budget any fiber internet revenue at this time. We know for the next couple of years, we will be running heavy on labor. We know that by the time we start hooking up, so we're running 2 systems. So we know that there'll be a few years of losses that ultimately that those will go away. We also know that changing to some of the things that are later in here will also make some savings to our bottom line. Again, we are predicting that we'll have another loss, but if you look at the net income and add back our depreciation and you add back the payment of taxes, we're actually cash flow positive, and we have been for several months. But again, you still got to know we got to buy stuff, so we're not still building enough cash yet. But we're heading definitely in a positive direction, and I think once we're able to shut off the HFC plant and start getting some of these other things and really dialing into what we do best, I think you're going to see that kind of start turning around, and we'll be able to pay back some of the items that the borrowings will go back to the electric fund. Then we're going to see some things change. And Tom and I have been talking about how we want to, as we talked about in the budget workshop, how we want to allocate those funds and pay back those funds over time. So there's that. The next one up is the wastewater fund. Again, as you recall, you guys approved a 1.9% increase, rate increase for the wastewater. I might have that backwards. I think it's 2.9 and 1.9, either water or wastewater. So, but it's in there. $5.6 million of revenue, $4.2 million of expenses. So again, this is a healthy fund. But again, if you know what's coming, we understand that down the road, there's a lot of debt that's still outstanding, and that's going to show here. And you kind of say, well, where's all of our money go? Well, if you look at this line item here, if you add in the interest expense and then the annual debt payments, that number is actually kind of really tight in terms of our debt service. So again, we know we got to start building up some funds in order to have our wastewater treatment plant expansion that is going to happen. But that's wastewater. Okay, questions? We're moving forward. Same way, again, water, I think it was 1.9 or 2.9, flip-flopped them. Operating revenue, 3.8, expenses, 3.4. We have a healthy operating income. Here, we don't have as much debt load for the water fund. However, we know, as you just saw in that prior presentation, there's $2.6 million of improvement. Now, I know that includes some road funds, but it's critical that we really make the safety improvements at the plant, as well as make some of these improvements that we can continue to grow into the future. Again, very healthy, but again, anytime you touch anything under the ground, it's millions of dollars. It's not tens of thousands. So that's why people always wonder, well, why do you need so much money? Well, it's not really for labor because, again, we run a very small crew. It's really for those debt payments and those capital projects like you see happening on Monroe Street, what you see right now happening on Sauk River. So both of those projects are very well over $500,000 of each project. So there's $1 million in two little items. So I believe with that, here's the capital, which I won't dwell on. You can look at those, but this is the same presentation that was provided to you at the budget workshop. So again, we can provide this at any time. And with that, I'll just look for a motion to adopt the budget and send it on to the council.
I would move, adopt the budget and send it on to council.
I'll support that.
Okay, motion and support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Say nay. Motion passes. Thank you, guys. Next on the agenda is resolution number 21-44, demand response program.
Okay, well, I'm going to try not to make this was Jim's presentation, so I'm going to kind of step in for him. I just got called away, so hope all's going well. Everything's okay, as best it can be, I guess. So anyway, okay. So the demand response program, this is a program that was brought to us by a customer who wanted us to look into a way that they can enter into kind of the electric markets themselves. In a nutshell, what it is there's a third party called Voltus, and Voltus says, well, we can save you money by putting on software that we can curtail demand immediately. So within 15 minutes, they can turn off their heating and cooling system. And for doing so, they bid that into the capacity market. Now, again, this is going to get really complicated. But if you recall, the capacity market cleared at Cone. You've heard that remark. High number. This year, the capacity market cleared at 15 cents. Okay. So basically what this company would do is they say, well, if you can sign up for this program that allows me to, when MISO needs additional power on the grid, you can shut everything off within 15 minutes. We can bid that as additional capacity into their demand response into the MISO market and get paid. And in doing so, the company gets a cut of the savings, and this third party gets a cut of the action. This third party is not really done a lot in Michigan. So what we're trying to do is kind of come up with a pilot. Currently, our ordinances prohibit this type of things from taking place, but we thought we would give it a try. We've checked with AMP. AMP also offers a similar product in the PJM markets. They use a company called C-Power. We talked to C-Power. C-Power says, really, this is like selling, and I'll use somebody else's analogy, it's like selling flood insurance after the flood because the prices went up. C-Power says, no, we're not interested in even talking to you guys because there's no money. However, Voltus, because they are affiliated with Master Nardi for all their different places and states. They just want to keep everybody kind of the same thing. So long story short, again, Jim's memo really does a better job of explaining it, is when you can cut electrical load that quickly, there is some money that can be made. However, at this point, it's based on what you think you can cut. Well, it's always at you can't bid in more than what you can shed in the summertime. So Mastronardi in the summertime are not running their lights, so their electrical load is way down. So they can only do what they have in the summertime. So in the wintertime, it doesn't matter as much, although there would be some additional savings if MISO went to a seasonal coincident peak. Again, I'm talking way technical terms. But basically what happens is, so they're going to bid a certain amount of KW into the market. And if they get called on, they will get paid by turning the lights off. It's basically what it boils down to. There's some different rules that they have to do. But Voltus also has some predictive software that they're saying, well, if we turn you off now, we can also help you with some of those. So there are some additional savings. There is no impact to the BPU because we actually, when prices are sky high, we don't want to really running anyway. So there's some benefit to us as well from that aspect of also helping us on some transmission. So what we have done is allowed this to take place. It would be on a pilot, and really, there's really nobody else that would want to just turn people off. Like Walmart Distribution Center is not going to turn lights off when 200 employees.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah, Asama is not going to do something else. However, their potential could be something for the schools. Since the summer, they're off anyway. But again, it's what you're using in the summer. Well, if you aggregate them, and there's potential. That's how they're using it in other RTO markets like PJM because there's a bigger capacity. Here it's 15 cents. So again, they're hoping that the price, so this third party really hopes that the price of capacity goes out of the roof again, because that's how they'll make their money. And so does Mastronardi. However, we want the opposite, right? So we feel that by allowing this to work, we're going to give it a trial run. We are putting in our ordinance that one, it's a pilot. One, it's only available to those people who use 20 megawatts or more, basically, which is, it kind of limits it to one customer. And there is a 1 year, if we feel that this is not working out either for our customer or for us, there's a 1 year, we give a 1 year advance warning of an opt out. So we will say we're going to redo the ordinance. So from what we know, from what we work with their AMP partners, there is very little risk to the BPU. There's potentially some upside to our customer. We feel it's nominal at this time. Last year, there would have been some money. So we felt it is in the best interest of our customer to give us a whirl. To my knowledge, we're the first people in Michigan to be trying this. So that's why we wanted to kind of run it just purely as a pilot right now. It is run in different type of things, like people have an interruptible rate, but most of our customers don't. Like you can't have something in your furnace and all of a sudden say, oh, we're just gonna let that, we got to keep that fire going, whether you're a HC Starts or you're in a Asama, and you have employees. So Moreau is in a unique situation that they have an ability to turn the lights off, and they also have an ability that they can say, they don't have that many, at times they don't have that much employees. So we felt it was worth this effort to go through. So answer any questions. Again, I think Jim would know a little bit more if there's any more technical details, but unfortunately he got called away. So
Clear as mud.
Pardon me?
Clear as mud.
Yeah.
So the curtailment system is all on the customer side anyway. It has nothing to do with the power side of our side of it.
Correct. Yeah. And again, it is something that more details. So FERC is a regulatory agency. FERC has came back and said that they came out with order 2222, which they really want everybody to start adopting these types of things, because again, this is where the future is going, that the customer can, it's a customer's choice to turn the lights off. So if they don't, there's a penalty to be paid. Well, if they have to pay that penalty, the third party company, Voltus, is saying that they'll pick up those penalties.
So where is all of this coming from, all of this manipulation? Is it because we're creating all these regulatory rules that people are then looking at it and saying, okay, I can do this and this, and I move this piece here and that piece here?
I would like to say that as an expert, much like, say, what Paul Beck used, who had 20 years experience in this, but I don't.
I understand.
But I will tell you, from talking to the experts, that a lot of it is everybody wants to be like PJM and on their construct, a capacity construct. it's all coming down to Michigan is an island. Michigan wants people to start building generation in Michigan, not just wind and solar. They want, firm capacity. So in order to do that, what do you got to do? To get people to invest, you got to raise that price. So they almost want prices to go up so that the people who are developing these generations can make more money, and hence, but that's a trickle down effect to the customer ultimately. So that's kind of where this is all going. It also ties back to electrification of vehicles. It talks back to installing smart meters that can control, if you sign up for the program, just turn your thermostat up or down. It ties into anything along those lines. It talks about the time of use rates. We're very progressive. We've been doing time of use rates now since last October for our large 3. Going well. We're stubbing our toe along the ways, but these are the things that really make this industry has had more change. And again, talking to the people who know, they've had a lot of experience in the last 3 to 4 years, it's changed more dramatically than it had in the prior 10 or 15 years, just because all these new technologies coming out, especially the renewable push in solar and those type of things. So it really is hard to put a finger on what the one item that's doing it. This company, I think, is kind of being a little aggressive to try and say, hey, we can do this for you. We could do it on our own. We could do this exact same thing, but it's 2 people. We're not there to sit. We don't have somebody to sit there watching the markets all day. So is this something the BPU could do? Sure. We don't have the technology. We don't have enough staff. So by the time you add the staff and the technology, I don't think we would be doing it. So, but we also feel it's worth it to at least give our customer the opportunity.
Try it. Why not?
So
Yep.
I know that's a little bit more of a diatribe than ask for.
Okay, any other questions? Need a motion?
Motion to approve.
Need a second?
Go ahead.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So what we would be doing, just so you know, is amending the current one that's already in place, allowing this new resolution.
And it's 1 year, correct?
It can go on forever, but we have a 1 year. If they enter in a contract, we're gonna give them 1 year to get out of it. Now, their contract, we were told, is either a 3 or 5 year contract. We would probably work with the customer, but again, for this initial one, we tried to put it in there that it'd be a pilot basis. And the BPU, by authorizing this, you're giving me the authority to pick and choose which third party we're using. Like in AMP's case, when they're using, the utility actually gets a cut of the action. So in this case, we just don't feel there's much cut to even.
Well, if it goes negative for the customer, we don't really want to touch either right now either.
And
So.
it's very possible. It could go,
And I hope it doesn't, but.
Yes. And Voltus is the third party right now takes on that risk.
Yeah. Is there any opposed? Say nay. Motion passes. Next on the agenda is the broadband service contract.
Pat, I'm going to kick this over to you.
All right, yeah, so we've been using 2 different providers for many years through the HFC plant. The most recent, we've been using Climax Telephone Service, CTS, out of Climax, Michigan, and Everstream, which is a more regional provider based out of Ohio. But as we were moving into this new fiber plant, and we're looking to build more resiliency in the system so that the telecom and IT staffs can sleep better at night without having that J Street being our single point to the internet. We started to look at how we could design something to give us that redundancy and hopefully cut some costs at the same time. I was really pleased when CTS stepped up. Basically, they're offering to give us another circuit, increase our bandwidth by double on the primary circuit, and then give us a secondary circuit for basically the same cost as what we were paying. Ultimately, this gives us really one throat to choke if there's a problem. We don't have to do this finger pointing, is it CTS's issue or Everstream's issue? So we would end up with a circuit that goes to J Street, another circuit that goes to one of the substations. One of those falls on their face. You know, CTS has some nice redundancies in their system where they'll land to the internet in Chicago or in Ashburn, Virginia. And neither one of those circuits could go there. So it'd have to be a very, very large scale event to start to take this sort of thing down. The really nice thing about this is that we get to cut that Everstream monthly cost to $57.50, which is about $69,000 a year. Kind of out of the equation, you know, going back to Jeff's mentioning earlier that we're, you know, trying to cut costs on the bottom line. So I think this, you know, our partnership with CTS has been solid. We've worked with them since the inception of the system, I believe. We're real confident in what they can do. They're very proactive in their network, very responsive if they do have an issue. So we're recommending that we drop the Everstream contract and move to CTS to provide 2 circuits for us.
Any questions for Pat?
Yeah, you know, Pat did a great job of working the contracts, and again, and really, he really went deep with Aspen to make sure that, hey, we're going to have that same redundancy. So that's was very important to us. So, even I understood it when he was explaining it to me. So that was good. So
I will say that these prices that we're seeing here are getting more like the wholesale prices you'll see in some of the bigger cities. We're getting really close, a lot closer to that than we used to. I think when I started with the telecom department, we were paying about $1.70 a meg, I think, that first year. We were able to negotiate that down. And now, you know, we're looking at 18 cents, which is quite an improvement.
Okay, thanks, Pat. Appreciate that. Need a motion for.
Yep, I'll make the motion to approve the broadband service contract.
Support. Got a motion of support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Next on the agenda is the PGS resources settlement.
yes, so going back in time, back to 1997, if you read the memo, we had an agreement with basically Pennington Gas, PGS Pennington Gas, and so when they originally put their initial office up on there, they came to the city and wanted to connect to our utility services. So long story short, that was done. It was done through a special assessment. Pennington was able to sell some improved lots, so there's a benefit to them. The city got the improved tax base because we've got the cinema, we got Dr. Hartman's, we got PGS itself, and others have also connected the system. Blue Ox Credit Union also connected to our system. So we're getting, so even the BPU got utilities revenues from that system. So long story short, everything went fine, but then we haven't had a lot of development out there for some period of time. We, on occasion, had reached out to them and saying, well, this potential might be happening when we're looking at other people building on Willowbrook. And it seemed like there was always this unknown because the contract was written, or the agreement was written in such a way that's a little vague as to what happens to the other east side of the road, because all the development has been on the west side of the road. So there was a stated dollar amount on a per square, or on a linear foot basis, so much for water, so much for wastewater. We looked at it and thought one way that you can't make money on this agreement. They were under the impression that they were going to make money on this agreement. So ultimately, we agreed to disagree. Very friendly, very amicable situation. But in talking with the Penningtons, they basically came back with an offer. They said, well, we just settle this now because this could go in perpetuity and they could all be gone. Everybody who is a partner of this original agreement is no longer with the city, and quite frankly, some people are passed away. So there's really nobody to go back to. we felt it was best to avoid litigation, that we should reach an agreement. So we went back and forth and kind of come up with, agreed to a $35,000 settlement. They'll settle all claims future and prior, so that they're not going to go back to us for anything that happened in the past, which we've always settled up. But we also know that going forward, we now are responsible for all the assessments for that property, period. So if somebody wants to develop, we can still recover some of these charges, because we can charge them what we want now for their water and sewer hookups, if we felt that that was important for them to pay that share. So yes, we are paying them $35,000, but we can also recover that either through future land costs, or because now those lots are developed and we no longer have to go backwards to fight over, okay, this money goes to them. We know what our costs now are on those lands. And this kind of a little got kicked off again because we talked about the apartments and potential, the Willowbrook apartment complex. So that was one of those things, well, how much were we supposed to pay him? He had one number in his mind, and we had another number in our mind. So to avoid litigation and talking with Megan, this was the best solution. And they are very agreeable to terms. We were, because they also don't know, if this was on 20 years, will they be around and who's going to keep track of this? So this just settles the whole situation. This agreement was originally made by the city of Coldwater. So really, it has to go to city council for final approval. So this was the final settlement that we're offering. So would just be looking for your approval on this.
So does this end the agreement then, so that it finalized, that says, okay, this agreement is no longer
Correct.
valid after
Yeah,
whatever date?
complete settlement. We don't have the language here because it has to,
Right.
because Megan was quite busy. So this really, she'll have the final language, I think, but it still needs, but again, want to make sure you guys are comfortable with it first before it goes to city council for final approval. But
Well, we don't know what's gonna happen in the future. Maybe that side does start to develop.
Yeah.
You don't want this going.
Right, and the problem is, we need, in order to even try to develop that side, we need to come to them with what's that number? Well, if they put it up and say no, we're gonna end up in court either way. So, and again, and they weren't threatening and we weren't threatening, but it was time to put an end to this situation.
Okay.
Very amicably, they were great to work with, and they benefited, the city benefited, so I think all parties are happy with the settlement, because it's a set of brothers, so.
Okay, need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Got a motion support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Okay. I got so many papers here tonight, it's ridiculous.
Where's back up to Pat's?
Pat, to the Aspen Wireless Progress Report.
Bingo. Pat, do I gotta share anything? Nope, he's already got it up. Look at that.
Smarty pants.
You're up, Pat. Pat, we can't hear you.
There you go.
I gotta remember to unmute before I start the thing because all my controls end up behind everything, so. I'll start it up again. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay,
I can't see your presentation now, though.
how about now?
Yes, sir. We're good.
We got both. Success. Okay, yeah, so phase two's plodding right along. We're doing real well with that. As you can see, I mean, we do still have a little bit stuff with integration, sonar side. It's mostly training at this point is what we're looking at those pieces. Node 11 has 54 customers connected now, so it's open, ready for business. Node 9 is ready for business. It was just released, I think, last week. And we do have customers starting to come online, but I didn't have anything for today. So Node 8 is in quality control. So I would expect at the end of this week, maybe early next week, that one will be released for business. And we'll be able to start hooking up customers there. Node 13, they're telling me that is coming on, ready for quality control tomorrow. So that was just about ready to go. Node 5, the next day, they're saying that that one's going to be, so it looks like we're going to get a dump of these nodes all at once here. June 15th on node 7, which is our downtown area. We've already got 20 customers connected there. But that'll be finished up here this month as well. And then node 6 is also in June. So stuff that's fallen into the July, August area, that's going to be node 1, node 2, although we have a couple of business customers connected there now. Node 12, that'll be in that's it's still in the second quarter here. Node 3, got one customer in there. Node 4, and then the stuff that's fallen into quarter 3 is node 10. And as you'll notice that the boring one, all the boring is completed now. We're considerably under budget on boring, although I don't have all the invoices in yet. So I didn't want to come out with a number for you, but it looks like we're coming in really good on the underground part. Node 15 is also quarter 3. We've currently got 15 customers there. Node 14, which is quarter 3. And this one you're going to see a little, this one got to be a little bit big. So we're going to actually split this node. It's going to get pretty expensive to run all that fiber from the cabinet for node 14. So we're going to split that off, put another cabinet out there to feed somewhat of that area there. And I'll be able to give you a better idea what that zone will look like once we get that fed into the GIS. We're also going to split one other node that's fairly large. It actually breaks into a few nodes out by the Michigan Ave substation. And I'll have more information for that hopefully next time. But that's all of them. As you can see, they're planning. I think the last date I had was October 20th. But they think they'll have construction wrapped up. We'll see how accurate they are. And if we look at the budget still looks good. We did spend. We're going to be having. I think it was a $68,000 change order for that 17 node split that I just showed you, which gets our out of scope estimate a little close to what we expected it to be. But the budget still looks really solid. We came in pretty low on a lot of these materials and the construction we got. I think our timing was about as perfect as it could be. You know, if we were to try to quote this job out right now, that 4.2 budget would probably be a lot more accurate. So the cost of everything right now is, especially the labor and stuff, is going up. So, and then the last slide is just our last mile costs. That's we're still buying supplies so that we can hook folks up. But that looks like if you add the original budget with the last mile cost, it looks like we're going to come in the whole project under the original budget. So, which is good news. And that's all I have for you this week. So any questions?
Oh, just had someone talking today at a business meeting. Just they're excited.
Yeah.
They're excited.
Yeah, I will tell you, nobody gets more excited than Jody and I. And we're on the non-construction side, so it's always go, and it's just slow. This is a major undertaking, so it takes some time, and never fast enough for the people. But Bob Worley, you don't see Bob a lot. and Pat and Cruz, they really doing a great job of keeping this on top. I think we're gonna have a great system when we're up and running. Yes, it takes time. We're hoping everybody's very patient because but again, I think the people who have it right now are very happy with our service and heard really positive feedback for the results of using this. And it's like anything else. I mean, good things come to those that wait. So
Yeah, I try to keep Jeff going at a jogging pace so that when he stubs his toe, he's not breaking anything. So
yeah,
try to go a little slower and make sure that we get all the bugs out of it before we really get too far in there.
Pat does a good job keeping me in check, so it's all good. With this, we did talk about, we do have offers out to 2 young men that will be joining our staff. Again, we need to hire people just to do the installation. So it's kind of like climbing that mountain. So we are weighing a potential third. So again, we're staffing up so that we can start being a little more aggressive with our installations. Again, so we are kind of, as Pat said, we're definitely crawling before we start walking and then before we start running. So that's the kind of the plan, is to start running real quickly to get my 1,200 in 12 months. So
Well, obviously we have 3 or 4 nodes coming on here within the next month or 2. I mean, we need more staffing for that, obviously.
Yep. And we talked about contracting it. We could have. Our goal was, though, was our customers are our customers, and we know how we treat our customers. The Skidder rollout, we kind of learned some lessons. Not that it was bad, it was just different, because our expectations when we go into customers' homes are different than most contractors, just to be honest with you. So we want to make sure we do this right and do it our way. Actually, we want to do it Pat and Bob's way. So that's really what's more important.
And the equipment for taking it to the home, that's been working out fine.
Yeah, the vibratory plow has been great. You really can't tell if somebody drives that through your yard. You don't even notice it went through your yard. So it's really good. So yeah.
And the vibratory plow, the nicer the yard you have, the less damage you get. So it works very well.
We're hoping to beat some of the weather on some of the underground, because obviously we can't do underground. Like, say my house is underground, I can't put that in February or January. So timing is everything a little bit on here. And Pat mentioned the lead times on some of this material. It's out 6-7 months now, and that we didn't have that problem when we started. And our timing has been very good to roll this out. Again, I think some would tell me I wish they would have done it 6 months earlier. But I think we're doing okay. So.
Well, we had to wait for Marshall to get their project done anyway, so.
Yeah.
Because I mean, they were kind of the guinea pig a little bit, and everything's worked good, but we've saved money by the experiences with them.
We think we have.
Yeah.
We think it's been a very good solution. We're very happy choosing Aspen Wireless. They're not a contractor to us, they're a partner. They believe in this system as much as, they're here for us, and we're gonna be a long-term partner.
Absolutely.
Very happy.
Thank you. Is there any other questions for him before we move on? Next is public comment. Don doesn't have anything for us. Okay. Next is new business.
Yes, so director's report this time, you can see the power cost adjustment, again, it's still a little high. We're coming through still that capacity thing back till June. The long-term projections, if you would have saw them earlier, are still showing that power supply costs will start going down in the next 12 months. But again, not significantly. And this, although people always don't like this showing up on their bill, this is something that probably when we make the rate adjustments, we're going to try and make that be even a smaller number. But that means you raise the base. That means you increase the costs. And so it's a lot of moving parts. You already met Abby tonight. So that, very happy that she is here. You really feel her energy. Monroe Street is up and running. Still done by July-ish. Looking at you.
You're in good shape.
Okay.
Last time was done today. We're doing well. Moving well.
And the Sauk River is also up and running. That's a little more preliminary, just starting on that project. The peaking project, again, they have now moved that back yet again. So now the decision point is really still, it's been moved back to July now. So our next decision is really still that mid-September, early October. nothing has really changed for us. We are, again, we're doing air permitting because all these things have to work in concert together. So we are spending some money, even though we still think this is a viable project. We're hoping everybody's holding their costs, but that's one of the concerns now is because costs have risen so high, especially on materials and steel and wire, that we hope that this hasn't moved, but we still feel this is very prudent. We do feel that, Marshall is considering joining us, which would reduce our risk again, we talked about. So we'd be very happy if Marshall took another piece of this. So again, just because we don't like to have all of our eggs in one, not that all of our eggs would be, but we'd have more eggs in this basket than I might prefer. We did talk about City Hall reopening June 1st. I hope you guys have noticed we are still doing social distancing. We made some changes in the actual appearance. We made sure that people are away from our service, customer service areas, both on neighborhood service as well as on the bill pay side. So again, more changes still have to take place. We got to find a permanent home for Dr. Brown's memorial wall, or excuse me, his grandfather's memorial wall. So that will be taking place. We did also do our solar field RFP. Again, we looked at that area along I-69. At this time, the price came in so high because the way that property is kind of developed, we felt it was best not to pursue that today and look at other options, whether it's, getting some offtake from the property that's being developed to the southwest of town. There's another property in Hart, Michigan. So it really doesn't matter where it's located, but it comes down to price. So, so there's other options that we have to start looking at different PPAs, which is the purchase power agreement, just like the one we have in town here. That's part of a bigger conglomerate. So we probably won't be pushing this site at this time. Not that we wouldn't do it in the future, but it might be something that we decide to farm it. We're just going to mow it again for this year and then figure out what we really want to do because it's not really great for any particular use at this time. Update on the Union City withdrawal. There's been a couple different hurdles that have come up and they just got to get their legal ducks in a row. So it looks like that hopefully will be December 1st before the withdrawal is completed. There is one scenario where it could actually even wait till next May, which is when the capacity action, but that continues to move forward. We did receive notification the IGS home warranty cancellation did take place, that they were no longer going to serve municipalities. So that is something that company made the decision. They will bill you directly. They're just basically cutting us out as the middle people. So, but if you had a policy with them, you can keep that policy, but it'll be direct with the company versus going through us. And so, and that's fine by us, but it was a little bit of a moneymaker for, and they used us as kind of like their advertising. So we got paid some money for it, but again, that happens in another year from now.
Any idea if their rates are going to change when they bill directly?
Yeah, I don't know. They didn't give us any information. I don't know about that. I would assume not, but I don't know the contract terms of those, so I don't know what they have. I can find out though, and I'll let you guys know. Just always a reminder of the $75 rebate towards the maintenance of the air conditioning units. That's out there for all of our customers, so we encourage people to use that typically, especially for the contractors. So that is out there again. We did close the East Drive into Waterworks Park in case anybody's wondering what's going on. We're trying to do some repairs and reseeding of the lawn this winter. People really decided just to drive wherever they wanted, so must be a COVID thing. So we decided to kind of fix up that lawn. Brian and his crew's doing a good job of taking care of that. The substance receiving station is now back up, but it was down for the last couple weeks, so that is now back up and running. And Brian, will you come up and talk about the cleaning of the aerators? And I got some pictures here, so go ahead, Brian.
All right, John Willett, do you know what an aerator does?
It doesn't have something to do with air?
Correct. So if you ever drove by the water plant, you'll see two great big square boxes that are sitting on the back of the plant. Those are the aerators. Basically what they do is we dump water in the top of them and we force up air through the bottom of them. And as you can see, there's 500 little triangles slid into some fencing and the water trickles down and comes through all there like Plinko. So we're changing the iron from a soluble state to a non-soluble state so we can remove it in the gravity filters. Normally we do this like every 7 years, But it's been about 12, so they're extremely dirty. As you can see on the lower right-hand photo there, that's where the water initially comes into the aerator and goes through the little bitty holes, not the big ones, the little ones that are half plugged. And the only reason half of them are plugged because we already sprayed off half of them. So they're basically overflowing into the bigger tubes and missing that whole part of the process. So hopefully with the new maintenance software and some improved staffing and maybe some improved leadership, we'll get that rectified and do it on a more regular basis. It's a very nasty, dirty, exhausting job. So somebody has to pull every one of those triangles out of there, hand them down to the people below who put them on pallets, who power wash them off, and then they go through and bleach every one of them and hand them back up, and they go back into the fencing, and then we have to chlorinate the aerators for 24 hours. So
Are there systems that aren't as labor intensive?
no,
Okay.
it is what it is. It's got to cascade down to force the air up to get the good.
Well, I didn't know if there would
oxygen.
be like a unit that,
Pulled the whole unit out at one time.
yeah,
Yeah, I've not seen one.
okay.
And you have there's two of them. So you
Yep.
take down one side, replace it, then
Yeah.
do the other side.
Yes, we have to bypass around the one that we keep in service because we can't handle that much flow. So there's a bypass valve that we open and just shoot half the water through the aerator and half water just goes into the rapid mix tank. Then we flop over and do the other one. Took about 10 hours for each one. So we had a little overtime, but you
How
guys
many
did a great.
personnel?
4 to 6. We were rotating people in to help when we could, try to keep everything else going, but there was usually 4 guys at least on the job. 2 guys up on top, 2 guys below.
So you said 7 years?
7 years was what the maintenance schedule calls for, but I think we might do it a little sooner.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna tinker. Once we get the maintenance software package up around Lucity, which we've been working on for 2 years, and COVID's kind of put us in the back burner over and over and over again. We're gonna tinker with a lot of this stuff and see where the sweet spot is, not just where the manufacturer tells us to do it. Is it better at 4 years or 5 years?
Okay.
I'm a tinkerer, John.
You can see how dirty they are, obviously. That's the power washer, that thing that you see pointing out, so.
They've done a lot of work at the water treatment plant, a lot of maintenance stuff, and, we greatly appreciate, all the work.
Well, just keep your eyes out. If they do come up with a system, bring us
Bring us
some
you
info.
the cost estimate of 2.5 million per aerator, and you guys will just rubber stamp it.
Money's no object, John, tell them, right? That's usually what I say, yeah. Yeah.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
And then the last thing was just, we did get a thank you from Dylan McFarland. Again, you heard how heartfelt he was and how appreciative he really has done that. And really, to see him come out of his shell, I mean, obviously you see a young man who, you really kind of see, socially and even gaining that confidence, you can see him, because I can tell you, he would not have done that when he started in August.
No, he showed up, and the first day I met him, he showed up in Converse sneakers. Obviously, he looks a little different.
Yeah. No, he's done a great job. So very,
Seems like
very
a really good kid.
Yeah. And then just a thank you that we got, we did do a $250 donation for the sponsorship, of the Welcome Island. I think that's it for me. Any questions for me? Sorry for the long meeting. Happens. Next month's probably be a little longer, so. Might have to pack a lunch, dinner.
Sounds like dinner subs or something.
Yeah, we might want to consider.
Did we need to talk about the meeting I'm gonna miss? You want to do that, Ed?
Yes.
Nobody knew that yet, so yeah,
Yeah.
DataMex meeting is July 7th, which is the week of 4th of July, and Chris will be gone. Will everybody else be in town? That they know of at this point in
Vacation,
time?
my boss doesn't let me, so.
Slave driver.
Yeah, my boss doesn't let me either, so I'll be here.
You'll be here too, Terry? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
and I'll
Then
just
we'll
check
have
with
a forum.
Scott just to verify.
I'm pretty
Well,
sure.
at least
Scott-
He's still not golfing, geez.
Yeah. Do we know, does Scott run the meeting when you're gone? It hasn't happened in a long time, so
No,
that's.
not for a while.
Yeah, it hasn't happened for 2 years,
Yeah.
something like that. So,
Okay,
But yeah, and I talked to him about it, so he won't be blindsided or anything like that. So I talked to him actually a month ago because I thought that would be happening. And so,
okay.
So we got the date next meeting. We'll just adjourn now. Okay, we are adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Seems so weird doing that now.
I know, right?
You trained me one way, then you turn around and train me the other way. Now I got to go back the other way.
Thanks, Pat.